the sensory processing disorder. Now, this is really important to know that the sensory processing disorder is a really important diagnostic tool within the autism spectrum. By the DSM-5, this is a core feature of autism. But also that some people actually struggle with sensory processing disorder without being on the spectrum. So this is such a good example with how people can relate. People would say, "Oh, my child also closes his ears when there are loud noises." Now, yes, you can actually, this is the same symptom that both of them are struggling with, but there has to be a functional deficit for it to be really challenging. We will go through that later in detail, but the autistic individuals often experience either hyper, over-responsive, or a hypoactive sensory system. The reaction to the sensory input, such as sound, light, touch, taste, or movement. Some may seek intense sensory experiencing, and we will go through that, how different senses are responsible for different things. But the spinning and the jumping, some kids really like to spin and they keep on spinning. And then there are some kids who really can't bear the loud noises, and they avoid certain kind of textures. And these are such common examples. I think we all can relate. But how do they connect? Very important core feature of autism, definitely struggling. A lot of 80% of the kids with autism actually struggle with sensory processing disorder, but also important to understand that this is also present in ADHD, other development delays as well. So, but the functional deficit is where the game changes. That's a big deal. If the child actually has a full-blown meltdown because of he could not take the input, the sensory input, the all that input that has been bombarded to us every day, all the time by our environment. If somebody can actually relate, but we all have sensory preferences. The sensory preferences are not as the same as the sensory processing dysfunction is. This is such an important, I love this picture because I think this image explains everything. If you can take away three things from this webinar, one of them would be this. I actually, I still have to admit people when I don't know how I didn't. Okay, so sensory integration or processing is the brain organizing and responding to the information received by the eight senses about our external and internal environment. We know the five senses. If the sight, hearing, ears. Sorry, somebody is actually. Okay, my the five senses that we all know, and then there are three more which are really important. One of them is the balance and direction, vestibular one. My son is exceptionally good at it, and that's why he's an excellent. He rides his bike so good, and this is very important because you could struggle with one sense and not struggle with another. So him being good at one thing does not mean that he could have deficit on another end. The other one is the proprioception and the vestibular ones have been very, very confusing for people and parents. But we will discuss them in detail because this is what sensory integration is about. The movement and the position is the proprioception. The body, the part of the body who's actually responsible for the input are the muscles. And then we have the feeling and understand what's going on inside your body, the interoception. I'll give you an example. Kids who struggle with the interoception have a hard time toilet training. They have a hard time understanding that they are hungry. They have a hard time understanding that they're full. They would keep on eating. The balance, the vestibular one, I love this example that, the part of the body as an anatomy responsible for the vestibular sense is an inner ear, is located inside the ears. And that part is, there's a actual fluid that balances itself. So when the fluid moves, we feel that we are moving. A very good example for this one would be when you're spinning and then you stop spinning, the eyes are giving the brain signal that we have stopped. while the fluid, the vestibular sense, is giving the brain signal that we are still moving. Well, what happens? The brain is confused. You feel dizzy. So I really feel that understanding how our nervous system actually works is step one to understand what your child is actually going through. Um, and obviously, when we are working on the regulation, the nervous system regulation is so important, and how the sensory regulation is connected to the emotional regulation. And you would see the outburst, you see the crying, you would see uh, screaming, and that would be the visible signs of a meltdown, but all these senses are a part of it. So bringing out the balance, balancing everything, balancing the input is really important to avoid the the end result. I'm stuck. Okay. Um, Everybody can still hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I see. I don't know my um just a second. I have some people st in the waiting room and I need to admit them. I don't know why we still have a waiting room. So I'll go. Once I've done that, I'm going back to sharing my screen. Okay. Now, the sensory integration, the sensory processing dysfunction, the sensory processing disorder is a dysfunction. Now, this is the integration. It's like how we can integrate all our senses. And this was a treatment that was introduced by Dr. Jean Ayers, and this is 1970s. So her treatment did not include interoception because the sense of interoception was actually studied later in 2010s, 2010s. So this one, the sensory integration focuses primarily on three basic senses, which is tactile, vestibular, and proprioceptive. Now, maybe I forgot to give an example about a tactile sense, but that's the touch one, that your skin has muscles underneath that is responsible for the input. But the interrelationship between among these three senses is so complex, but and so important at the same time because they allow us to experience, interpret, and respond, essentially our brain, right? So we are bombarded with so much input at all the time, same time, by our environment, and this different stimuli in our environment is responsible for us to know. This is also very important. I think another very important point is that the body learned through sensory input, and later it reacts without conscious thought. So you once you learn that, okay, if I touch this surface, it would be hot. And you jerk back your hand. This is not a conscious decision. You would do it without actually consciously making that decision because the sensory input teaches the nervous system how to respond. And that's where we want to bring in the balance. The sensory responses, very right place, right time. The neutral response is the one that is expected, that we have learned. For example, if something's hot, we jerk away your hand and you're not supposed to touch it. But the overreaction to sensory input is hypersensitivity. A lot of kids have that. The texture sensitivity is one of them. Like literally, I've seen kids, I've met people who actually gag over different textures, and that's their body responds to it. It's not dramatic. It's not being dramatic, and that's why I really feel that over the years in the autism journey, using the right terminology, people, if they don't know what's going on, they would use weird, crazy, dramatic, and these, it's just lack of understanding and ignorance. But the other one is a hyposensitive, and you would see that lack of response, and they would need excessive input required to register that there is sensory input. Now, a child could be hypersensitive in some senses and hyposensitive in others, which makes it very, very complicated. The hypersensitive kids are they obviously would avoid that stimuli. They would not want to wear clothes because they're hypersensitive on their tactile sense. And then, or some other kids, like, for example, the sense of smell, they would be sniffing everything. They would be sniffing people, they would be sniffing everything. And even in terms of texture, they'd be chewing on everything. So that is a hypersensitive child that is seeking the sensation. And given those sensation in tiny amounts is not like a very good example would be something that does not have such a big functional deficit is people preferring very, very cold water, cold things, cold shower, because they need excessive amount of input to actually register that. Um, the tactile system. Believe me, just three more slides of theory, and then we are going to solutions. The tactile system includes the nerve under the skin. I think most of us understand this. This information includes the light, pain, temperature, and pressure. The kids don't like being touched. My son is very, very tactile defensive. He does not like it. He refuses to eat certain textures food. We will discuss in detail how we can help that. Certain type of clothing. I think lifestyle has been very, very forgiving nowadays, and everybody likes comfy clothes, but it's not the same as some people not being able to wear any kind of clothes or any kind of tags or something. Avoid getting one's hand dirty. So often they would not even touch it. If they have crumbs on their finger, they won't hold anything. A dysfunctional tactile system may lead to misperception of touch or pain. Hypersensitive, and obviously that causes them to be irritable and hyperactive. The other one is vestibular, very important. We discussed it a little bit in detail before, that detect the movement and the changes in the position of the head. Like, for example, when your eyes are closed and you're moving your head, that system is telling you whether my head is on the right side or the left side. The dysfunction actually shows in two different ways. There's a fearful reaction. Some kids does not want to be on slide or swings or any kind of like they won't go up the stairs even. And then there's the other ones are the ones who really, really seek that stimuli, which is hyposensitivity towards the vestibular system. So they want to be on the swing, they're spinning and spinning and spinning. And we would always wonder, oh, look at this one, and he's spinning and spinning, and he's still not dizzy. Clearly a hyposensitive child on his vestibular system. On the other extreme, and we have discussed this, the proprioceptive system refers to components of muscles and joints and tendons that provide a person with subconscious awareness of the body position. This reminds me of the man on the wire. I really and I watched when I watched that documentary, I felt that how that person's proprioceptive system must be exceptionally good, and that's why he's able to walk on the wire, while some kids are very, very clumsy. They are struggling with that system. um, when proprioception is functioning efficiently, an individual's body position is automatically adjusted in different situations. It allows to manipulate objects using fine motor movements, such as writing with a pencil, using a spoon, and that is so it's fine motor skills and it's gross motor skills, both at the same time, responsible for proprioceptive system. So, for example, my son is a great at riding his bike. He's also really strong. He's such a clean eater. He's such a neat eater. And then you would see some kids who actually struggle with that. So you'd know which two systems are they struggling with. Some common signs of proprioceptive dysfunction is clumsiness, tendency to fall, lack of awareness of the body in space. They don't really crawl when they're young. And I think you might have heard, before I move on to, because we will be discussing primitive reflex integration, That some kids they would always talk, whether they would always ask this question, that whether your child actually did he crawl when he was a baby, when he was a toddler. Difficult manipulating small objects, which obviously is a struggle at times with the buttons. They are eat in a sloppy manner, resistance to new motor activities. Um, so next we are going to start with the solutions. This is how we start with the solutions. And I will be presenting three different kind of solutions, because everything, in my opinion, nothing is simple. I think that we have to, there's not one professional who's one stop shop, one who has all the solutions for our kids. And I'm very greedy and selfish in that case. I would be, yes, you're not an occupational therapist and you can help my child, but there's a limit to it. So yes, you're a doctor, you can help my child, but there's a limit to it. So there's so many interventions that you could do. And I would take away, if it makes sense to me, if there is real science behind it, which also science is ever evolving. So you can't really, it's not set in stone and it should evolve. Anybody who's stuck in, like, what I learned in college or what I learned in my, is not going to get away with it with me. So my solutions would be three-part. One, we would be doing the primitive reflex integration. I'm sharing three different, and I my approach is bottom up. So I'll be sharing three different movement exercises that works on different reflexes, that I think you can start tomorrow and would help your child integrate their senses better, would help your child regulate himself better. Then we are going to, then we are going to work on, or maybe study a little bit about neurotransmitters and how that chemistry plays a part. And the last one is the sensory diet. I just need to. Okay, we are back. I have more people to. Okay. Okay. So first of all, this movement is called primitive reflex integration. Three movement that change everything. First one is the starfish snow angel. Very simple exercise. Like literally, you do like this. You sit on a chair and you do this exercise. The starfish snow angel, why this matter? This actually addresses the moro reflex. It integrates the moro reflex and it really helps with startle reflex, the anxiety, the sensory overload, emotional meltdown, poor regulation. Very, very good exercise and very easy. A lot of fun. I think these three exercises are the ones that does not take a lot of effort for kids to do. They can do it. You can definitely use the ABA principle, give them the incentive to actually do that. These things are worth it. There's an explanation to the exercise, which I don't think I should go through right now. It's just very simple. You can YouTube the videos. There are like tons of videos, but it is simple starfish, just snow angel. Everybody knows how to do the snow angels, but you can Google it too. And this really helps with emotional regulation, sensory overwhelm. The reflex that it is integrating is the motor reflex. The second one is the cat cow, which integrates the spinal gland plus TLR, tonic librant reflex. These reflexes is very fidgety. I have Ahil doing this reflex. I have a video of Ahil doing this reflex with his occupational therapist. And people would also often ask me, oh, really, occupational therapists can do it? Sadly, my occupational therapist was not the one who introduced me to it. I was the one who introduced the primitive reflex integration to her. But I still think that I'm so thankful to her because she's open. She was open to learning and exploring new things that could help Ahil. And I think that itself is something to be thankful about because a lot of professionals are not. But I will play that YouTube video just to show you how easy this is. Can you see it? No, you can't see it. Wait, you can just hear it.
No. Yeah.
As a person who actually is a computer engineer, first, I find very disheartening when I can't do this. Okay, do you see that? Do you see it?
Yes, Zena, we can see it, but we can't hear it.
There's no sound.
Okay, then that's fine. Okay.
So this is Ahil. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so this is Ahil doing the cat cow reflex. I think people who do yoga might actually find it very uh, yeah, similar to a lot of postures, but this exercises. There are three simple exercises that I'm sharing. They are integrating different reflexes. This one integrates TLR and spinal gland reflex. Now I will show you the other one. Okay, how do I go back? Where is my presentation? Okay. Okay, we're here. Um, this one is the Okay, this is the next one, which is the third one. This is integrating ATNR plus STNR. This is called cross crawl. Also, very simple exercise. This helps with poor handwriting, poor reading, tracking, clumsiness, difficult crossing the midline. And I also would like to mention that I'm a big fan of animal walks. I think you can Google that too. All kind of animal walks are crossing the midline, and they're really, really helpful to integrate all kind of reflexes. So that's a very simple way to do that, because if you can get your kids interested in a different kind of animals and see, oh, we are following that, that is also very simple. I will play this one now. And can you stop? Very simple exercises. You're crossing the midline by actually touching your hand from one side to the knee. Back to our presentation.
And in between, I would just like to add that I have sent the links to these both videos in the chat. Please feel free to watch it and also subscribe to Autism Simplified so that you can have access to more information.
Yes, thank you so much. This is such a um okay. So we did go through three different very simple exercises. This is a bottom-up approach. You're not working on the reflex integration, because that becomes too complicated. That seems too complicated for parents. But we are working on these three different exercises, which is integrating actually five different reflexes, which will help your child regulate better. And I think I cannot simplify it more than that. And that's my point. I really want to simplify our lives because I live this life. So I feel like yes, I understand everything, but then please tell me what to do tomorrow. What can I start doing tomorrow that is going to help my child learn how to ride the bike? So these three things are the ones that you can start tomorrow. Now we are going to really deep dive into the neurotransmitters and sensory integration. And I wanted to say that I was so excited for today because within autism realm, I have two interests. One, sensory integration, and second, neurotransmitters, because I think they play such an important role. Um, and I'm lucky to talk about both of them today. So I'm learning about genetics too, but that's another topic we'll discuss in another day. Now, you would see why neurotransmitters is so important too. The connection for sensory integration and the neurotransmitter support. How can I explain? Before I did make this image to simplify things and make it very, very easy. The four neurotransmitters, the four major neurotransmitters. This one is missing glutamate and a couple of more. But I feel that really, really to simplify, the four neurotransmitters that we should be talking about when we are talking about sensory integration is GABA, the brake pedal, calming, serotonin, the happy hormone, right? The dopamine, the focus one, acetylcholine, body awareness, and integration. If somebody would ask me to shortlist and just talk about one, I would have chosen acetylcholine. But I'll give you an example about this dopamine. Like it helps with the focus. So you can tell what the ADHD medication does. It increases the dopamine. So, because that it really helps the brain focus on the important sensory input and tune out the rest. So, for example, when I'm talking to Ahil at times, and I have this video about auditory processing disorder, where we are sitting on a train and because the train has these announcement and I'm asking him a question and he's responding to me and suddenly there's an announcement and he's like he has lost his train of thoughts. He has forgotten what my question was because he was distracted. So the tune out, for example, another good example would be me talking to you right now and suddenly the AC turns on. And then for me, it's okay because my brain knows how to tune this out. And this is not an important information. This is not something that to respond. I'm not making that decision consciously. My body knows it. The sensory input that obviously the sense of hearing is taking it to the brain knows, okay, you know what, this is not important. So the dopamine is the one that we have to work on when the kids get really, really easily distracted by things, and we have to work on the focus. Support, motivation, attention, and reward processing. Poor focus, sensory seeking, stimming, and restlessness. Now, this chart is very, very defines itself, right? Like explain itself. I really like to add on that how different supplementation or different kind of food, if you can take it from food, please do that. I do think that it's like a child who's a picky eater needs his mineral tested and he needs mineral support. Now, how do I provide him with mineral supports with all the seeds and dry fruit or other kinds of food if he's a picky eater? So I need to solve that. It's like egg and chicken. You have to work on one first to actually help him. So I really feel that to kickstart things, I need to supplement him with zinc and maybe magnesium and maybe copper sometime because a zinc and copper ratio is really important. But if if I expect him to eat all kinds of seeds when he just wants to eat nuggets or crispy chips, I really don't know how is that going to solve. So that's why I do think that supplements have such a huge role to play and are really helpful in bringing our kids to a level where they could actually have a bigger palate and can eat all kinds of food. And I think my son, from a picky eater, has become something has improved tremendously. Not drastically, because drastically would be overnight. Tremendously over the years, and he eats a lot different kind of foods and textures. Thanks to the supplementation protocol that we worked on. We have GABA and serotonin. I'll give you an example. GABA. GABA is like, what would you think? A Xanax is a GABA. A Xanax increase GABA. alcohol increases GABA. So you become calmer. You filter out the, unnecessary, you're not bothered about tiny little things. It helps the body feel safe and relaxed. Also, the key nutrient that can support it is vitamin B6, magnesium, zinc, and taurine. Taurine is an excellent antioxidant. And magnesium being magnesium glycinate is, everybody should be on it. If we all should be, because the world that we live in, vitamin B6 is also so important. You would see that all one, two, three of these neurotransmitters, the supporting vitamin, the B vitamin is B6. So I really feel that all kids on the spectrum should be taking vitamin B6. We need an activated form of vitamin B6. I have it's called P5P. I have a bunch of, I'm not loyal to anybody, but a good brand, a good company, a good third party tested company is really good. So that's really helpful, not throwing away your money. The serotonin one, you can tell all the anti-anxiety medications are actually the ones that increase the serotonin in our brain. So irritability, the anxiety, and the rigidity. Some kids who are so exceptional in so many other things, but so rigid about their routine. And if you support the production of serotonin, the brain feels safe and comfortable, and they are easy to do in different, they're easy to transition from one place to another, one situation to another. The most important one, the acetylcholine, which is the body awareness and the integration, it is very, very important for proprioception, sense of body in space, motor planning, coordination, and learning. And that's why I said that if I had to choose only one, I would have talked about acetylcholine, because that is, and then that is the one that really, really focuses on the sensory integration. The child would not be clumsy anymore. He would have better coordination, better motor planning, better proprioception, and the learning difficulties. So, a choline supplement. I actually made it up. I made a post about the choline supplementation. I know. I'll just quickly tell you guys that there's alpha GPC, which is also choline. There's phosphatidylcholine, which is PC. I'm a big fan of PC as well, but I really feel that if you are working on the sensory integration and you have to choose one supplement, that would be citicoline. It really, really helps. You should be taking it in the morning time, not in the evening at all, because it's activating. And that's why it's really important to, whenever we are talking about neurotransmitters, is that you don't need one more, and you don't need to increase and decrease. You need to balance them. So if you increase GABA too much, your child is a lazy person and he's like zoned out. So it's like, or you have very high serotonin. We did the neurotransmitters testing, and my son's GABA was very, very high, and he has always been very, very compliant. So I could tell the picture that you get from the neurotransmitter testing is so obvious about the personalities. And you know that all these antipsychotic medications and all this bipolar medication or the ADHD medications does change the personality, because the personality is like body chemistry. It's the neurotransmitters. Your brain changes, and physically the chemicals in the brain is either increasing or decreasing depending on your hormones, your environment. And in the end, everything that you're doing, whether it's an exercise, whether it's a nutrition, whether it's something, a holiday, they are changing the neurochemistry of your brain, and that's how you feel. That makes you, whether you're happy, sad, and things. I can, you do see I think on my page, I have this important testing or basic testing for kids with autism, which essentially is for everybody. I really feel that. And that's why I say that. I often say that it's not we're trying to cure or fix anything. We really want to improve the quality of life for our kids. So we all could actually improve. We all could reach our potential. We have better, we can improve in every form of way, and way. So we have basic testing would include magnesium, that would include iron. Everybody knows that low iron means people get fatigued, they're too tired, they don't have the energy. Vitamin D is so important. Most of the people, especially in North America, are low in vitamin D. A zinc and copper ratio is also really, really important, because a lot of kids who actually are picky eaters or sensitive to different textures are actually low on zinc. So we start with the zinc, and if the zinc is fine, we need a really good ratio of zinc and copper. We could introduce a little bit of copper. Magnesium is an easy, I think everybody should be on magnesium. Then we have, what else? We have vitamin C, taurine, antioxidant. Vitamin C, antioxidant. You need that. The life that we live, everybody is in oxidative stress more than anybody. Our kids are in a very oxidative stress state. And everybody that I've worked with, all the kids, and I feel that this is the one-stop shop. Their body is not detoxing the way it should. And how can we help the body support the detox? Because we do have organs to detox. So is through supporting different through different supplementation. Um, Next, this also is a very simplified version of how neurotransmitters support the sensory integration. The brain constantly receives information from the body and environment. Neurotransmitters help filter, organize, and respond in a calm and balanced way. Like I gave you examples like what is important, what is not important, just the right balance. We need too much input is overwhelm. If neurotransmitters are low or imbalanced, the brain lets in too much sensory information. The result is an overwhelm and a meltdown, anxiety, sensitivities, and tics. And I recently also made a reel about tics, and it was so interesting to hear so many people saying that how and tics are the ones that move, actually. It's like a phase. The kids have tics and then they don't. And you would understand it more because you would understand that how some kind of like if they're having lots of junk food and it's ruining their brain chemistry. So there's an imbalance, and the brain is letting in too much sensory information. So in the end, they will have they are more fidgety, they have more tics, and cleaning up that would really help, and supporting with the right nutrition. I'm not against the food as a part of nutrition. In general, I'm a big fan of cod liver oil over omega-3 because I really feel that the nutrition that is found in nature, if given the choice, I would take that. Too little input, under responsive. If the brain is not getting enough or cannot process sensory input well, it may tune out. A lot of kids you would see are like zoned out, they have low awareness, and they are very sensory seeking behavior. Why outdoors help? Remember, what we are doing, trying to do is change the brain chemistry, balance the neurotransmitters. So it lowers the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, increases GABA and serotonin, improves mood and focus and sensory regulation. That's when you say, oh, if your child is too overwhelmed, overstimulated, go for a walk. Um, Changing the neurotransmitter chemistry. The key connection, the sensory integration challenges are often neurotransmitter regulation challenges, not just behavior. Very important to understand. And how you don't have to make a choice. And as a parent, this is my advice to you. I don't have to make, I'm not team A or team B. I'm team Ahil. I'm team, my child, kids with autism. That's my team is. So, the nutrition is helps with the chemistry, and the therapy and experiences teaches the body how to respond, better regulation and quality of life. Nutrition and nutrients help the brain have the chemistry to do it. Therapy and experience help the brain learn and grow. You need both. If I had more time, I would have improved this image, but at least the information has been everything that I put on, I wanted to be a part of this image is there. So we can discuss it later, but before I move on to the sensory diet, the magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin B6, iron you have to test. You cannot give iron without testing. Omega-3 are really important. I really like cod liver oil because that has vitamin D and vitamin A, source of nature. And the zinc need to be tested as well. You have to check the zinc and copper ratio before you supplement it. What you can supplement from tomorrow is magnesium and B6 and and omega-3 and citicoline. And literally, the acetylcholine needs three things to the acetylcholine neurotransmitter. If you want to increase it, you need three things: citicoline, omega-3, and magnesium. So these three combo is great to start tomorrow to actually work on the sensory regulation, emotional regulation of your child. Next, the last part of it, sensory diet. Now, this is where this would be the occupational therapist domain. These I also feel that the day you get your child diagnosed with autism, you should be able, the next day you should go to occupational therapist. You should ask them to assess your child and plan a sensory diet. Once you have sensory diet in place, you can actually work on it on yourself, within your, like, by yourself. Steps to plan a sensory diet: you need the profile assessment, use observation sensory profile. There's lots of sensory profile checklist that you can do, and feedback from the professionals, to identify strength and challenges, determine which sensory systems require calming or stimulation. We have to set goals, define short-term and long-term objective, improve focus, and reduce anxiety. Choose activities that address specific sensory needs, ensure activities are age appropriate, easy to plan, make a schedule, plan sensory breaks throughout the day, incorporate activities before and after transition, after he comes back from school, after he, in the morning before he goes to school. A well-designed sensory diet ensures that activities are meaningful, achievable, and very customized. This is just an example of my son's sensory diet. We would plan a sensory diet with proprioceptive and vestibular input to improve sensory integration, emotional regulation. A bouncing ball. I would always have a bouncing ball. He loves it, and everybody would in the start would say, "Oh, this is your gym ball," and I was like, "Yes, my gym ball." Monkey bars. Every time we go to the playground, I make sure that he goes on the monkey bars. I wish I could have one in the house, but we do that often. I think you can hang by the tree too. Um, uh, Pushing a basket, he helps me with the laundry a lot, and I don't feel bad about it because the heavy work is really helpful to regulate themselves. We have a trampoline. We have always, God knows, 10 years we have. I think every time I feel that he's very fidgety, he's find it difficult to regulate himself, 10-minute trampoline with a song of his choice, music, it usually is like two songs, 5 minutes each, for example, is a great session to refresh himself and bring him, integrate his body and, provide all his senses, the regulation that they require and the input that they need. I have also said it before that a great tip for autism therapy is to have occupational therapy before you have speech therapy, because once you do the occupational therapy, which includes a lot of these things, your child would be more regulated and he would be ready for a tabletop kind of activity where he can concentrate on speech and listen to your speech therapist and would not be too fidgety, hard to sit through the sessions. And I think well planned day would require that child to have some kind of movement before any kind of tabletop activity. Next, now we have just three different example of different activities that help with the different senses. Vestibular input, balance, and movement for kids. You can swing. We have animal walks, crab walks, bear crawls, frog jumps to engage balance and coordination. Spinning game, spin on a sit and spin and use a swivel chair. Ahil really likes that too. And obviously swings is like therapy. Swings are amazing. It's so much fun. And I think occupational therapy, if occupational therapy is not fun, your occupational therapist is not doing its job. Simple. Tactile input, touch and texture. We could use the sensory bins, fill a bin with rice and pasta, messy play. And the brushing protocol, the Wahlberger protocol, I do have that. I do think that the vibration plates really help. I do have the vibration, the toothbrush, you could use it over different places just to provide that the touch and texture input to different parts of the body. They're really helpful. Proprioception, heavy work play, push a laundry basket, pull a wagon, carry weighted objects like that. I know people would have recommended you weighted blankets that are really helpful. Bear hugs, some kids really like their squeezy cushions, their um, this is like what's this called? I can't think of it. Climate, and these are this would be a brain gym. Would be mix of integrating reflex integration exercises as well as a sensory diet. The supplements, I think I've gone through most of them before. I do want to say, because I'm a homeopath, I really feel that one thing that everybody should be giving their kids with autism is Dr. Shuttler cell salt. It comes as a 12 cell salt combo. Extremely, these are micro minerals. They help the body to absorb the minerals from the food. And I really think that every child with autism should be on it. And they are tasteless and they're really good support for. We could work on I mean, if you do one-on-one consultation with any practitioner or professional, a functional medical doctor or somebody else, you could work on the allergies and you can work on different diets, treating the yeast. And people would say, yes, treating the gut. It does take a while. That is like a long-term approach, but obviously important if you don't see any results anywhere else. I think we